Here's the solutions video for the operations with radical homework that you guys have to do. I put it not on the worksheet that I gave you, so I have some more room. Remember, you only had to do the odds, and you had to do this on separate paper, all right? And you needed to show all of your work. Now, the first one, there isn't really much work to show for this, all right? When you add or subtract, they need to have the same radicand, same index. I have the same radicand, I have the same index. So negative 5 to the square root of 3 minus 3 to the square root of 3, that's just negative 8 to the square root of 3. Okay, think of it like variables. It's kind of like having like terms. So for number 3, sorry, I've got negative 4 radical 6 minus 1 radical 6, that equals negative 5 radical 6. Okay, because it's kind of like if I went out here. For number 5, it's nice because they all have the same radicand. So I've got minus 3, minus another 3, minus another 3. That gives me negative 9 to the square root of 27. But this is not simplified all the way because 27 can be broken down. All right, 27 breaks down into, this is going to be negative 9, and then 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. So I've got some 3's that I can pull out. When I pull out the 3, that's negative 9 times 3, and you leave a 3 in there, so this is negative 27 square root of 3. That one involved a little more work. Coming down to number 7, I think I talked about this one in class. All right, looking at it right now, none of them have the same radicand. They all have the same index. They all have an index of 2, but none of them have the same radicand right now. But 45 and 20 can be broken down. So we need to simplify what's under the radical and then see if we can combine any. So when I break down 45, that's broken down into 3 times 3 times 5. And you guys could have done this off on the side. You don't have to rate it exactly like I have. 20 gets broken down into 2 times 2 times 5. And 6 is just 2 times 3. So there's not really a point in breaking down the 6 because I know that there aren't going to be any groups of 2 that I can pull out. Here I've got a group of 3's. Here I've got a group of 2's. So this is going to be negative 2 times the 3 that I pull out, that's negative 6. And I'm going to have another minus 6 because 3 times 2 is 6, and I have a 5 under there. And now these first 2 both have a square root of 5 in it, so we can combine those. So negative 6 minus 6, that's minus 12 times the square root of 5. And then don't forget to tack on this minus 2 square root of 6 on the end. You can't lose it. So this is your final answer right here. For number 9, again, right now they all have the same index. They have an index of 3, but they don't have the same radicand. But all of these can be broken down, and we can see what we can do. Now remember, and I feel like this is probably what got a lot of people. Anytime we have an odd index, it's okay to have a negative under the radical, and we can always pull that negative out. Okay? Because if you think about it, couldn't I write the cube root of 3 as positive 3, and then I can have 3 negative 1's in there? So when I pull out that negative 1, I'm pulling out the negative sign. All right, but it's kind of silly to just write all these 1's in here. So just remember that anytime you have an odd index, you can always pull out that negative. And when I pull out that negative, this is going to become a positive 3 on the outside and a positive 3 on the inside. Next, I'm going to break down this 162. And 162 breaks down into 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 2. And then 81 breaks down into 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And I'm looking for groups of 3 in this case. Here's a group of 3, and here's a group of 3. So now I've got 3 times the cube root of 3, plus 2 times the 3 that I pull out, that's 6 times the cube root. And then I still have this 3 and this 2 under here, so that's a 6. 3 times the 3 that I pull out, that's 9. And I'm left with a 3 on inside. And now, this and this are like radicals because they both have an index of 3 and they both have a 3 as their radicand, so we can combine those. And that's going to give us 12. Where am I? Yep, 12 times the cube root of 3 plus 6 times the cube root of 6. And there you go. So, a little bit of work. You got to remember to pull out that negative anytime you have an odd index. Looking at 11, almost all of these can be broken down. The 5 can't, but the rest of them can. So I got this negative on the outside. Don't lose it. When I break down 320, I'm going to have 5 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. All right, this is why I told you guys separate paper. This is a lot. Minus, this is just the cube root of 5. When I break down 235, that is going to give me 5 times 3 times 3 times 3. And then when I break down 16, it's going to give me 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Holy moly. Now I'm looking for groups of 3. Here's a group 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 of 3. So I pull out 2 groups of 2. So 2 times 2, that's 4. And I had that negative on the outside, and I have a 5 on the inside. This just stays what it was. When I pull out the 3's, 2 times 3, that gives me 6, and I'm left with a 5. And I pull out a group of 2's, 2 times 2 is 4, and I'm left with a 2. Now this is nice because 3 of them combine. I've got negative 4 minus 4 plus 6. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8 plus 6 is negative 2. Whoop, what did I do? Negative 2 to the cube root of 5. And then I still have this plus 4 times the cube root of 2 tacked on the end. On the page. Now multiplication is nice because I don't need to have the same radicand, I just need to have the same index. Okay? So here, since they both have an index of 3, I can just go ahead and multiply, and this is going to be the cube root of negative 60, because 3 times 20 is 60. Okay? But this isn't simplified completely because we have an odd index and a negative, so we can take out this negative sign. This is going to be negative the cube root of positive 60. Okay, and as far as I know, 60 can't be broken down. Nope, because we're going to have no groups of 3, so that's done. On to the next. Okay. Here, we have the same index, so we can go ahead and multiply 6 times 2. That's going to give me the square root of 12. And 12 can be broken down into 2 times 2 times 3. There's my group of 2, so this is 2 times the square root of 3. Always, always, always simplify, guys. Hopefully nobody had a panic attack for number 17 because you're just going to distribute. Okay, we have something outside of parentheses, so we have to distribute it to what's inside the parentheses. When I distribute it to the first term, I'm going to do 3 times 4. That gives me 12. And then I still have this square root of 3 right there. minus, now when I distribute to the second term, I'm going to have 3 times 3, that's 9, and then the square root of 3 times the square root of 5, that's going to give me the square root of 15. So 3 times 5 is 15, okay? As long as they have the same index, you can multiply them. And now we're done, because these cannot be combined. So that's it. 19 is the same thing. We're just going to distribute. When I distribute to the first term, I've got 4 times this 1 that's out here, that's 4. Square root of 15 times the square root of 6 is going to give me the square root of 90. Then I distribute to the second term. 4 times this 1 is just 4. And 15 times 5, that's going to give me the square root of 75. Can 90 and 75 be broken down? Absolutely. So this is really 4 times, and then 90 can be broken down into 3 times 3 times 2 times 5. And then plus 4, and then 75 can be broken down into 5 times 5 times 3. There's a group. There's a group. 4 times 3, that's 12. And then I'm left with the 2 times 5, so that's the square root of 10. 4 times 5, that's 20, and I'm left with the 3, so that's the square root of 3. There is your final answer. Always simplify as far as you can go. How am I doing on time? Not bad. Doop, doop. Move the page. On to 21. Again, we are distributing. This 1 times 2, that's 2. 15 times 10, 150. Minus 1 times 4, that's 4. 15 times 6 is 90. Had a moment. 150 and 90 definitely can be broken down. So this is going to be 2, and then I'm going to have 5 times 5 times 2 times 3. And then 90, we just did this, but it's 3 times 3 times 2 times 5. There's a group. There's a group. 2 times that 5 is going to give you 10, and you're left with the 2 times 3, so a 6 underneath. 4 times 3, that's 12, and you're left with this 2 times 5, so that's a 10 underneath. There's your answer. If you guys like to do FOIL, this is when you FOIL. If you like to do the little tic-tac box thingy to multiply, this is where you do that. I'm a FOIL person, so I'm going to FOIL. When I do my first terms, I'm going to have 1 times 7, that's 7. And the square root of 2a times the square root of 2a. Now, that's going to give me the square root of 4a squared, which is going to give me 2a, because the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of a squared is a. Or we can notice that anytime you multiply a square root times itself, the square roots go away. So it's up to you if you want to like show the extra step, what else. Then we do the outers. This 1 times this minus 5 is minus 5, and then the square root of 2a is just tagging along. Inners, minus 5 times 7 is minus 35, and I still have the square root of 2a. And then last, minus 5 times minus 5, that's plus 25. If you had written this part as 7 times the square root of 4a squared, now would be the time that you broke that down and you got to this part. Okay? But anyways, that's just 14a. These can be combined because they have the same index and the same radicand. So minus 5 minus 35, that's minus 40 times the square root of 2a. And then they have that plus 25 on the end. This is your answer. And last but certainly not least, another FOIL problem. Square root of 3 times the square root of 3. That's going to give you the square root of 9, but that's just 3 because the square roots undo each other. So that's just 9. Do the outers. We're going to have this 1 times this minus 5. That's minus 5. Square root of 3 times the square root of 5x is going to be the square root of 15x. 3 times 5x. Here, 1 times 1, that's just 1. And then 5x times 3, that's the square root of 15x again. And then 1 times minus 5, that's minus 5. And then the square root of 5x times the square root of 5x. That's going to give you the square root of 25x squared. Or you can notice that the square root times the square root of the same thing. That's just going to give you 5x. So when you break this down, you get 5x. So this is 9. We can combine these. Negative 5 plus 1, that's minus 4. And then this is going to be minus 25x. And that is it. Finished.